Hello Airsofters, so I decided to purchase an HPA compressor. I've played Airsoft enough times that I think I'll actually, you know, use it. Hello Airsofters, so I decided to buy an HPA compressor. A lot of the fields around here charge around $3 to do unlimited refills, but this thing, I think if I use it 80 times, it will pretty much pay for itself. And I've already played probably 40 or 50 times, so I still intend to play, and I think it will pay for itself. Okay, never mind the cat here. Let's see what's going on. This is the way it showed up today. Alright, so this top foam piece has the water. This is a water-cooled one. I got the best one I could in my country. So this is just a common fish filter thing. This is really cheap and easy to replace, so I'm not concerned about this. So it's got a bunch of hose, PVC hose. I guess the tape must have worn off. And it's got a little adapter to go into that thing. It's a whole bag of stuff, and this is the air breather for the cylinder of the pump, so I know I gotta replace that. Looks like there's a bunch of extra O-rings, spring, maybe there's a valve, an extra valve or something. Okay. Bunch of extra water filters, not water, well, this aluminum thing, I guess, traps water, and so these little things that look like giant cigarette filters go in here, and it helps to trap water from going into your tank, and also obviously any pollutants. There's already one in here, so that's nice to know. And there's a bigger, softer one, which are these ones. So actually, let me show you these things, because it's hard to show with this, but this is nice anodized aluminum, and there's a big O-ring there. I guess I might have to add a little, well, I don't know if I should add a little grease there. You don't want to have any oil in this system, because that would create a bomb in your HPA tank. Although, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Let me put this aside for now. So the big filter that's in that thing, this is very, very soft. You can see how easy I squeeze it. There's an extra O-ring, maybe 2 extra O-rings. And then here's that main filter. Now this one, hopefully I'll get focus. I can't even compress it in this direction. It's so hard. In this direction I can definitely compress it, but it's a lot harder than the big one. So this is like a pre-filter, I think, and then that's the final filter. And it's nice to know there's a whole lot of them. Okay, there's a nice rubber mat to hopefully keep the thing from moving around on the floor, and also help reduce vibration on a hard floor. I live in Southeast Asia, so this is the silly like UK plug. I think I'd rather just have the 2-prong one, but it's basically like a computer plug. It's probably like a meter long. Let's see. What's going on here? I don't know how, why I think they twisted that 2 different directions. Yeah, that's like a meter. It's hard to show, but there's half a meter times 2. Okay. So now we have some English instructions, which is nice because that's pretty much what I read. 40 MPa. single cylinder water cooled, alright, blah blah blah. So I'm definitely going to read all this because this is a very potentially dangerous thing here. But here, I'll try to get it focused and just so you can read this yourself if you're deciding on maybe picking one of these up. Okay, I'll definitely read that in a moment. Okay, and then we have the hose here, and it's got a metal spring around it to protect itself. Okay, and then a quick disconnect, brass. So I think that's all for the foam. So nothing else in the box, it's double boxed, of course. It's interesting, there's a little oil staining going on there, which is disturbing. That pretty much means to me that this box must have fallen over or was stored on this side because oil would have leaked out, right? But I'll have to check the oil. Okay, so this is the one with an electronic cutoff. It's not a good idea to actually trust it 100%, but I'm gonna, still gonna use it and monitor the thing as it's being used. All right, so I'll just continue looking over this before I go and read that manual. So there's the electrical input, and it's interesting. There actually is an electric plug, a 2-prong US style plug. So I don't know if this. I guess you're supposed to plug the water pump into that. Okay. This thing's really heavy. In fact, hold on. So the compressor just by itself is 16 kilos. Maybe like 16 and a half with all the hose and that other aluminum thing. Alright, so it's quite big. I mean, not quite big, quite heavy. There's a giant fan back here, and it's not like a computer fan. Alright, I decided to move it to a more reasonable location so we could inspect this. Here's that fan. Yeah, it's a big plastic fan. So it's a big steel body. If you're curious about the dimensions, in case you want to maybe put this in a specific place, the width of this is around 18 centimeters. I'm counting the screws, and 7 inches. The height of this, well, that's a different story because we gotta go up here. I would say 13 inches or 33 centimeters. And then the overall length. Boy, this is really hard to do, sorry. I would say a little more than, 34 centimeters or 13 and a half inches. Sorry I couldn't get that in the frame, but I'm doing this by myself here. Alright, so I was looking over the instructions a little bit, and the instructions cover all different models. So this image is not what's going on here, There's no pressure valve on mine. I think it's probably shown in the electronic display. One thing it does show here, though, is this vent valve right here, and also a vent here on this side. And a vent on this side. So this sanitized, this one has 2 water collection chambers. So what happens is the air enters this air filter here. Okay, then the piston is pumping in here, and then it's sending out the air up to the top of the piston, out this tube. Then this tube goes down here into this first chamber. Right, and so there's a release here for water, and this is here a condensation chamber from what I'm understanding. So that air now goes up here, down here, into the bottom of this chamber. and so another condensation chamber and another water and air release vent. And then this is the final connection to the hose. So screw this on here. There is a rubber washer in here. Let me get to the flashlight again. It looks like a white, maybe a white silicone washer in there, so that's good. So that just needs to be hand tightened, you know, just to have enough pressure against the rubber. This is interesting. That's pretty tight right now. It's not a release. Must have something to do with cleaning it. And then this obviously hooks up to your HPA tank. Alright, so one word of warning again, never have any oil on the tip of your HPA tank because it will become a bomb as this thing puts hot air into your tank. If there's oil, it will ignite. Alright, so let's see what else is on here according to the instructions. Oh, I gotta switch this out. Let's see. Gotta check the oil level. And I gotta say, it's kind of... This flashlight's really bright, sorry. Well, it's definitely oil. It's not dark or anything like that. It's just, you know, like a golden color. There's one little bubble, and there's a nice sticker here, you know, showing that it should be above the halfway point, which is this red dot right there. So for me, it's well above that halfway point. Okay, so that's good that it has that. Now you'll see there is oil coming out here. So I don't know if that's from the shipping or what. I'm gonna screw this. You want to keep this in case you do ever move it around. All right, so there's actually like a hose, so like a dipstick, but it's a hose. Interesting. All right, here's that breather tube, and I'm not sure. When I look at the bottom of this thing, only like half of it has openings. So there's openings on this side, but this side no. I have a suspicion it's poorly molded because this one looks like it's partially open. So I might just take an X-Acto knife and hollow that out, because if I blow on this, I mean air gets through, but I don't know if it's enough air for that whole crankshaft in there to be zipping around. So let me come back. Alright, so I just opened up 3 holes. I don't know about if that fourth is supposed to be open, but I think I'll just try this for now. It definitely seems better. Yeah, I can blow through it a lot easier now. Well, it says to, you know, swap out the drain plug, not the drain plug, the breather plug with this thing. But this thing doesn't have an O-ring on it, so it probably just makes sense to take the O-ring off of this. But then you gotta make sure, if you ever move this around, you gotta put this O-ring back. So I'm gonna measure this O-ring for you guys in case you want to just get another one. Alright. So the diameter of the the actual ring itself is probably 3 millimeters. Yeah, it's supposed to be 3. The outer diameter is 20. And the ID, obviously, it would be 6 less than that, right? So it would be 14. So that's the O-ring you want to get here. But for now, we'll just do that. Okay. Okay, you can clearly see, hopefully you can see the O-ring is squished pretty much, so no oil should hopefully come splurting out of this this little breather hole. There's a hole here and there's a hole on the other side as well. But I looked through it and it isn't a hole going all the way through. There's actually a partition wall in the middle of this thing for some reason. I don't know why. Please leave a comment if you know. But anyways. So, the pump. Sorry about the microphone. I have to use an extension or you'll hear my heavy breathing. But I think I just stepped on the microphone. So the water pump actually plugs into this thing, right? And here's the rating of the pump itself. Hold on. It is running 500 liters an hour, and it's 7.5 watts. And you know, this is submersible. You just dump it into the entire bucket, and it'll suck water through here, through this tube. And the tube, hold on, the instructions don't necessarily say which port it goes to, right there. But if I look at the photograph really carefully, it looks like the hose is going to the top one, and then gravity is probably helping it with the return. So I think that makes sense. Obviously the pump is probably strong enough, you could put it in either one, but why not just make life easier on the pump itself. So that was one tube, and then it came with the other tube. And then I'm not sure if water is going to leak out of this. It's not a really tight fit. I think because they want you to, you know, easier for traveling or putting it in storage. So you might want to put like a temporary zip tie or one of those replaceable zip ties on there. But we'll see when I start pumping it. All right, I think that's about it. The instructions said that you want to open up all the valves first, then turn it on. You don't want to have any of the valves closed because it puts unnecessary pressure on the piston as it's pumping away. But once it starts pumping, then you start closing off all the valves. So I think in order, it would probably make sense to maybe close that one first, and then this valve here second, and then this is the ultimate one, the last one, before it goes to your actual line and your the tank you're trying to compress. So I'm going to resituate this with a bucket of water, and let's see this thing going, and we'll see how loud it is and how hot it gets. Alright, so I was checking the piece of paper that the dealer had in the box in the native language here, and I took Google Translate to it, and it's a good thing I read this because it mentions the image in this instruction manual doesn't show which direction this last filter goes on. See, it's just kind of there without the filter. And then also on the listing, this guy sold around 300 of these things. So, and this person's listing, it says this thing will have a starting draw of 2,000 watts. I noticed there was no actual sticker on the thing explaining the power consumption. And then if it heats up to 80 or 90 Celsius, it's going to start smoking and the cylinder's going to break. So it really shouldn't go above 60 degrees Celsius. So luckily I have a Celsius meter. Alright, so another thing is this thing doesn't have a one-way check valve after all. The air is just coming out of here, of course. I'm going to close this off. So air is coming out. But if I plug this in, so air is coming out of this as well. So the reason why the air didn't backflow is the actual regulator had a one-way valve. This thing does not have a one-way valve at all. And actually I have a question for anyone that has this generic regulator. I got this off AliExpress. I did play a game with it, and my Wii Glock 34 pretty much stopped working at around 700 or 800 psi. So this thing has what's written a 7.5K burst disc there, and then I think here it says 3K, so it's a little confusing. What I'm wondering is if anyone fills their tank with this regulator above 3,000 psi. You know, it's rated for 4,500, but if this is a burst disc in here, I don't want to obviously put more than 3,000 in, or I'll have to replace the disc when it bursts. So that'd be nice to know. Alright, so let me hook up this hose thing here. Okay, so the water pump here. One thing I noticed is this hose is extremely soft. It wants to kink up. So I think maybe later I'll switch over to like a braided hose. You know, those clear braided hoses. we'll just dump this in this water over here. And now make sure this hose is not kinked up and going to the cylinder head. Should be okay. Now let's plug it in. I do have this outlet plugged into a surge strip with a fuse on it. Oh, it just automatically turned. Alright, the pump isn't on, but the display turned on. Let's see what this thing looks like. Sorry, the tripod is kind of getting in the way there. Now this glare. So right now it's at 28C, set to 138 bar. I want to change that to PSI, right? There's only 3 buttons here, plus and a minus. Ah, boy. Let's see if I just hold this. Nope. Maybe hold this. I wanted the power button, but nothing happens. Yeah, make sure those valves are open. So now I try holding both of these plus and minus buttons. Nothing. There's a little hole here, so maybe that changes things. Let me go get a pin. Let's see what happens if I put a flat-ended rod in here. Alright, it goes to Chinese, but it's still set to bar. And then I think it's... I don't even understand how the light was on and off before. There we go. Holding the on-off is the light. Let me hold this little button inside this hole down, see what happens. Oh, see, the bar is flashing. So now let's click up. So this is what's setting the... I don't think I can change it to bar. I don't see any other shadow of a text. You know, I can see the shadow of the Chinese text there, but there's no... So that's not very good. I tried to turn it off and it wouldn't turn off. So anyways, I plug it back in. I literally pulled the plug out there. There's no way to change this to PSI. This is a pretty stupid display screen. Why wouldn't they have an option of PSI? Because who's working in bar? None of the gauges on these tanks are in bar. So I gotta look up the bar rating now. Alright, so I put an idiot-proof sticker on there, and I guess I'm going to just go up to 200 bar or something to keep it around 3000 PSI. The dealer also mentioned it shouldn't go above 3500 PSI to not put too much strain on the piston, and that's fine by me. Alright, so I got to go in here again. No. And hold this button down, I guess. Alright, so hold this up to, go up to 200. Come on. This is, I don't know what moron designed these tiny buttons. At least the numbers go up quickly. Yeah, let's go to 206. And let's see now if I hit this internal button. So I'm going to start closing the valves off. think this thing works. So, I mean, maybe I'm not catching something, but this tank is now over 3,000. Let's take a look. Unless this gauge is really bad, but it's like 3,100, 3,200 psi. Never got too hot, but this display is not worth the money. I wasted a bunch of money on this stupid digital display because it doesn't even tell you the pressure the thing is at. This thing never changed. It never showed the temperature changing. It's just 2. So I don't understand why this even exists, this thing. I would rather have a manual gauge and maybe just put a temperature sticker on the thing. Alright guys, you saw me fill it up kinda incorrectly, and you saw me pretty much ruin this digital display because I hit the reset button. Anyways, I want to give some, follow-up conclusions. The pump itself works fine. The cooling system, I didn't see it go above 50. But the design of this product could have been a lot better and for very little more money. So, what happens? Well, first of all, don't buy the one with the digital controller. This one only had a 3-month warranty on the controller anyways, so when you have this much heat going up to the control board underneath this, it's going to go bad anyways. It's going to get cooked. So I would just stick with the manual one. Now, design-wise, they should have a manual gauge here and a digital gauge. This piece of aluminum should be a little bit bigger so there could be another tapped hole and just have a manual gauge. So it would be redundant. You can buy one of these gauges for less than $10. I would have been happy to pay an extra $30 if it just had the redundant gauge, right? Anyways, this is the temperature sensor, and you see when I did the video, it wasn't really reading the temperature because this is a poor design also. It's just loose, right? It'll read the temperature if you jam it in there. But you can't really put glue in there because the thing's going to hit 50 Celsius. So I'm going to do a little experiment to just put some aluminum foil around this and see if it causes enough friction. Let's see if that works. No. Somehow I'm going to have to shim a piece of metal or something so it doesn't back out. Something that can't melt. Something that won't crack with age. Because that thing is going to hit 50 Celsius. Alright, so that's another design problem. One thing I didn't show earlier is, in this little bag of O-rings and metal bits, extra stuff, it does have the plug here. So you can actually put this in here, and then you can plug this in here, and then you can actually test the pressure very quickly without having to attach a tank. Unfortunately, this little handout slip from the dealer has this photograph wrong. So in my video, I had the blue tank right up to here. But after several messages, he said, written in Thai language, it's actually saying the opposite of this. So you actually really want to have the hose attached to this thing because the moisture trap wants to be as close to the HPA tank as possible because it wants to remove as much moisture before it gets into your air tank. So that's where the filter is. So I now have marked this to the tank, right? All right, so keep that in mind. Yeah, so sadly, whoever manufactured this thing, first, you should have a better display. I don't know why it just says pressure controller on, off, plus, minus. If there's much real estate, you could also put 60 degrees max. You could put some PSI. You have a lot of real estate here to have some warnings, like a label saying do not hit the reset button, that kind of stuff. Or really, that hole shouldn't even be there. It should totally be covered up so no one will want to put something in there, because I think it's only natural that someone might want to see what happens when they change that little button. Curiosity killed the display, apparently, in this case. If it also had, the option to have MPA and PSI, none of this would have been a problem in the first place. But, all my HPA stuff is running in PSI meters. They're not running bar cages, right? So it's kind of, so it's not really, the dealer's fault. I gotta say, this dealer, he's done a great job trying to help me. It's just that, sadly, he's selling a poorly designed product. But if you happen to live in Thailand, he sells other versions, that are better. The manual one where there's a gauge here. I've actually ordered the gauge. I'm going to just get rid of this. I'm going to just use this thing for the temperature sensor once I figure out how to keep that sensor in the cylinder head. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Learn from my mistakes. Oh, one other nice thing is the fact that this has a regular IEC 320 plug. So if it's too short, I'm sure if you have an old computer, you can just, swap in a longer plug, which I'm going to do later on. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Bye.